I didn't think Edgar Berlanga was world class. I think he's interesting. I think he's fun for the sport. But ultimately, I also joke that he's going to be one of these guys that we're going to look up and he's going to be like 26-3 or 26-4 with like 20 knockouts. I've been telling you guys for however long since we started doing the show, that Edgar Berlanga, like he got dropped in the amateurs pretty bad, and people in this area of the country, in New York City, kind of knew he was chinny going into the pros, and the knockout streak sort of hid a lot of that. And then you saw what started happening as he started having longer fights and banking rounds, so to speak. And yeah, like I wasn't too surprised. I didn't like the fact that when he opened up in round 4, I was like, I'm not sure this actually benefits him. And what I kept saying was, in the build up to this, Carlos Adames made Hamzah Sheeraz struggle because Carlos Adames was moving his head, giving Sheeraz angles, and Sheeraz is like a straight line fighter. And Adames was like making him look silly. I thought he won that fight easily. But Edgar Berlanga is not going to do any of that. That's why I was like, I don't know if he has this in his bag, but he has to be able to move around to create angles. And Edgar Berlanga doesn't do that. Like, he's also a straight line guy. Like, he might move a little bit, but for the most part, like, he's just going to try to overwhelm you with his power. And he's gotten increasingly patient in looking for those shots, allowing for openings for his opponent. Like, the game plan was the game plan. He had to catch him to win. We also said, like, we're like, maybe he should win this, but we weren't like super confident. I definitely wasn't. Because Sheeraz, even though he was moving up to this weight class, look at how big this dude is. And on top of that, he had the height advantage, the reach advantage. And Edgar Berlanga, you know, he's not the most high IQ fighter out there. Like, I ain't saying he's a dumb dude or whatever, because that would be disrespectful, but like, y'all saw it. You know what I mean? Y'all saw what happened there. We'll get to some comments too in a little bit, but we'll start with this. Shantelle, like, what were your takeaways from that? Because I find myself also, like, a lot of people are gonna now put Hamzah Sheeraz into some discussions, and I'm like, I don't know, because I didn't think Edgar Berlanga was world class. I think he's interesting. I think he's fun for the sport, but ultimately, I also joke that he's going to be one of these guys that we're going to look up and he's going to be like 26-3 or 26-4 with like 20 knockouts.
So I'm going to go back to the fight first and then I'll get back to your question. But I didn't bet on this fight because I didn't know who was going to win. Sheeraz coming up in weight, Berlanga, you know, he's not the most skilled fighter, but going up against a guy like Hamzah Sheeraz, who is skilled and does have power, but then isn't really proven in terms of the guys that he's fought. So you're sitting here with two guys that have a lot of hype on them, I guess you could say. So I didn't bet on this fight. I didn't know how it was going to go. I didn't think it turned out like that. I didn't think Berlanga would get dropped 2 times in the 4th and then make it to the 5th while he, like, you know, was wobbly with his legs to his corner. And then they just, you know, Sheeraz was too much for him. They stopped it in the 5th. But the way that kind of happened, that was a little bit surprising. Tyrone the Great, anytime you donate to the show, we go straight to your comment. Well, shut up. Donated $12.30. Thank you. That's, is there a reason why you gave us $12.30? Either way. Like, is it lucky or something? I don't know.
12 rounds, 3-minute rounds. I don't know. Maybe that's some inside boxing shit.
Okay. He says, I wasn't expecting Matias to win, but when he did, I was overjoyed. Shakur domination. Sheeraz can swat. Good boxing. You know what?
Tyrone, did you bet on Subriel? Let us know in the comments. We have some other comments.
I thought Puello won. But yeah, we have other comments. We are going to get to it. But when you donate to the show, we just shut up right away. We go straight to your comment. Tyrone the Great, also a good friend of the show. He always donates every time we have a live. So we do appreciate you, Tyrone. I will say this. I just didn't expect it to go down like that. Because for me, I thought it could have gone the other way too. Like, leading into this fight, I'm going to be real. Because I wasn't too sure about Sheeraz. But here's the thing. We've known that Berlanga's been chinny. This has been a thing that's been rumored for a really long time. We've seen him get dropped before as well in the pros, but it was like bound to happen at some point. But I'll say this thing. I don't know if we know enough about Sheeraz. Like, why are we talking about him taking on Canelo? Like, why is this a thing?
You know
like
why.
we obviously, but it's like obviously because of Turk, but it's like, I don't think we know enough about him because I don't think Berlanga was like elite. What I thought from Berlanga was that we did see him get better throughout his fights. And I also believe that he's good for the sport of boxing. I will say one thing, and I said this to Brian: the Pelly trunks and the Jordan 4 boots, loved it. Right? Like he has the waviness. He's good for the sport, but he doesn't have the highest IQ. So I will say this, as in boxing skill, right? I'm not talking about like if he's good at math or something like and fractions and stuff like that. But in terms of what we just saw, man, like it's a little bit disappointing because it happened in New York, right? Like this is the main event that Berlanga was headlining, happens in New York, and he was going around, having a tour after Canelo. And this happens. Like it's not the best look. And I know you're laughing. It's it's unfortunate because I honestly do believe he's good for the sport. And I've continued to say this. But like I'm saying, Brian, I don't know if Sheeraz is that good. Like I need to see him against some more competition. Do you have the rankings? I know you're about to pull it up at some point. I see you move it. I see you moving and shaking around. So pull up the rankings because I want to see where Sheeraz is ranked and where he's going to go and the possibilities of who he could fight. Because as you know, Canelo and Butter are going to fight. And if those fights go well, they can make that a trilogy. So it might be a minute before we see Sheeraz against Canelo. But who could we see him against, Brian? That's the question at 168 pounds.
The rankings. I don't know how much the rankings matter if Turk is just going to put a shit ton of money on. Because here's the thing, you could sell Canelo and Sheeraz regardless of the Crawford result, even though you would think we would just get Crawford Canelo 2 regardless of how it goes. Although we can have a Canelo conversation. Friend of the show Jesus isn't around right now. If he were, I'm sure he would let us know. Like there's a Canelo conversation to be had because I was alarmed that he couldn't stop Edgar Berlanga. I was even surprised. And I remember we were talking about in terms of betting. I was like, I don't know. He could stop Edgar Berlanga, but I'm going to bet on him to score a knockdown because I felt more comfortable with that. Because I'm like, Canelo also low key, maybe high key, might be washed. And Sheeraz just did that. And Jim Lampley said he landed 28 punches in the entire fight. So I'm looking at Canelo Alvarez a little sideways too. Like I'm questioning Canelo Alvarez more than I'm looking at Hamzah Sheeraz like, oh, this is a future star. But I know he's going to have all the backing behind him now because you have this highlight reel finish. Hamzah Sheeraz is number 10 according to the IBF. He will inevitably shoot up because Berlanga was 5th. Berlanga was also 5th in the WBA and WBC rankings, and in the WBO, he wasn't there. If he were with Top Rank still, he'd be number 1. Actually, no, I'm wrong. He's number 2. If he were Top Rank, he would still be number 1. Diego Pacheco, your boy, who's fighting soon, there. So Edgar Berlanga's undoubtedly going to drop out of the top 5 in all of these rankings.
Sheeraz, fight Diego Pacheco. You'll be on your ass. That's what I think.
That's an interesting prediction.
Yeah. Wait. It is if Diego Pacheco and Hamzah Sheeraz fought, who would you take in that fight?
Probably. I was taking Pacheco over Edgar Berlanga when we threw out this hypothetical also. So I mean,
which is a fight that's not going to happen now.
We'll see how he does. Well, if he loses to Trevor McCumbee, we'll see how he does against Trevor McCumbee. But I have to feel like Diego Pacheco will look more impressive than Caleb Plant did. But we'll see. Sheeraz, though, to answer the question, 10th IBF rankings. He is not here in the WBA rankings. That's going to change. In the WBC rankings, which is probably the one that dude cares about the most, 6th. He's absolutely going to jump at least to 5. He'll swap with Edgar Berlanga, maybe even jump higher because it's a knockout. Number 5 ranked by the WBO. So he's going to vault there. But, I mean, if he's just going to fight Canelo next, then okay. But if that's going to be May, because we know Canelo's May, September. Sheeraz is going to fight somebody else in the meantime. I don't know what that's going to look like, but like, I don't know. I think Osles Iglesias is good. I think Diego Pacheco is good. Like, I think this weight class has some dudes that I don't think Sheeraz is all of a sudden just going to walk through all of them. Is he the guy that knocked out Edgar Berlanga and Ammo Williams, or is he the guy that got outboxed by Carlos Adames? That's what we need to find out. Jalen Davis also says Berlanga is a character. I view him in the same light as Rolly. They are needed in the sport, 1000%, and that's why we're going to see Edgar Berlanga again. He'll beat a couple of he'll knock out a couple of meh guys, and then he'll be right back into like
You know who he
a
reminds
fight.
me of? Gabe Rosado.
Gabe,
He's like a
Gabe
Gabe
Rosado wanted to
Rosado.
fight him.
Yeah, I'm telling you, he's like a Gabe Rosado. Like, you're gonna want to watch his fights. But like, I feel like Berlanga hasn't had like a crazy knockout for a minute.
No, I
He
mean
hasn't.
his fight before this, but that was
Yeah.
against absolute like that shouldn't count. If you look at the matchmaking in that one,
Shakur Stevenson. He took care of William Zepeda, and in my opinion, he pretty much dominated once he figured out that, hey, he can't stay on the ropes, he can't be in the corner. And I think the biggest thing about the Shakur Stevenson fight was he wasn't fighting like how we thought he kind of would, be more defensive, not take a lot of shots. He didn't do that, which means that he was listening to what a lot of people were saying in terms of him not being exciting. So he was in there with Zepeda. He took some big, heavy shots, but he got the W. And I thought I scored it 117, 111. I thought Shakur took care of him and dominated. But here's the thing. I don't think that Shakur even had to change his style just because everybody was talking all that. Because the whole time I'm watching that fight and he's on the ropes or he's in the corner, I'm like, what is he doing? Like, why? Like, why is he doing this? And that's kind of my gripe with Shakur Stevenson, because it's like, dude, you don't have to just prove yourself like that because people are hating and saying stuff. Like, you're a very talented boxer. You don't get hit a lot. That's okay. I understand that you want to be more entertaining, but in a fight where if it got serious, at one point it looked like Shakur got hurt early on. It looked like William Zepeda stunned him a little bit early on. It looked like it, right? So, but it's like, you don't have to fight like that.
I mean, I thought he wasn't fighting his style, to your point, because it looked like he was trying to impress some people, but you could see that he didn't need to. Like, all Shakur Stevenson had to really do, easier said than done against William Zepeda, but was just stay off the ropes. Like, Super Tevin Farmer got it done, Shantelle. That's the big takeaway here. If you missed this week's episode, coined the phrase and comparing William Zepeda's most recent opponents with being Tevin Farmer. And I was like, Shakur Stevenson could do all the things Tevin Farmer could do. He's like a super Tevin Farmer. And then that became a thing on the episode, which we all enjoyed. Anyway, So super Tevin Farmer got it done. Look, I had 9 rounds rather. 9 rounds to 3 for Shakur. I thought the 3 for Zepeda was kind of generous. And given that one judge had it 119, 109, 2 had it 118, 110, that tells you that the judges only saw Zepeda getting 1 or 2 rounds, essentially. Shakur, I could see him at the very most losing 4 rounds, but even that I think was a bit of a stretch. It was close in the first 4 rounds, and then Shakur just pretty much dominated from either the 5th or 6th round on, whatever it was. Zepeda was doing some good like pressure fighting early on, but ultimately he was just hitting his arms and getting a lot of his shit blocked, and he would throw a 4-punch combination. And Shakur Stevenson would just catch, parry, block. You know what I mean? Like, and he would just respond with like a straight left off of a shoulder roll, and then just catch him cleanly. Shakur Stevenson would land a lot of his punches, and emphatically too. Like, he landed the harder punches, the more visible punches. His work was cleaner. He was better. He stood in the pocket for a lot of this when he didn't need to at times. And he fought a quote-unquote entertaining fight. He took more risks. He almost paid for it in a couple different times because he did get rocked multiple times. But for the most part, he was in control. I would say 90% of the fight or something close to that, he was in control of it. I think Zepeda, like, he brought out it takes 2. So he brought out a great version of Shakur Stevenson that I think people would want to see. I don't think Shakur Stevenson should fight every single fight like this, though. But ultimately, if you're fighting like a Jermaine Ortiz, for example, or Sando Martin, like, you're not going to fight this way. I think Shakur proved that he's adaptable and that he can beat pretty much anybody fighting in different ways. Like, I think if he fought Tank, he would be more patient. He would probably be more of the Shakur that people don't like, quote unquote, but he would figure out a way excuse me, he would figure out a way to probably neutralize him. Although I'm not sure how much we could talk about Tank now, given that he can't stop getting arrested for hitting women, allegedly. So
Yeah.
there's that. But I think Shakur's the best at 135, hands down, right now. Look, William Zepeda was also number one. He's the rare guy who's number one in every sanctioning body. You unanimously agreed, like, yes, this is the number one contender for our title and for our title. And he had the interim WBC ultimately, so he went that route. And then yeah, it was what it was. I thought that was a great performance from Shakur. As far as what's next, I mean, let's go back to the rankings because the WBC is built in an interesting way, and we'll see how this sort of moves. Shakur, we're probably this is his second fight this year, so it's not a guarantee we even see him again in 2025.
Can I say one thing? Can I say one thing though?
Please.
When they said Shakur won, Shakur kind of looked surprised. Like he didn't know. Like if you take a look at his face, like he was
surprised at the scores, like the actual scores. You know,
yeah, but he just looked surprised. Like he was like so happy and
aggression all night too.
Yeah, that's true. Anyways, yeah.
Andy Cruz versus Shakur Stevenson. Oh, all you people who want Shakur Stevenson to be like an exciting fighter, that ain't the opponent for that. But I think the nerds will absolutely love this fight. This is the fun one to me. When the fuck did Yadier Herrera become number 3?
Wow.
When did this happen? Have I been sleeping? I checked this shit.
No,
regularly.
he was there before.
He was like 12 not that long ago or something along those lines. When did okay. Shakur versus Yadier Herrera. That will be fun from the standpoint of like Yadier Herrera will make it interesting in the build up to the fight. In the actual fight, I'm not sure he'll be able to land on Shakur Stevenson. When he lands on you, it could hurt. But like Herrera, he's not the guy that I think would like really like push Shakur Stevenson in a way that William Zepeda did, I guess, if you want to even say it that way. Maxi Hughes, Rayo Valenzuela, and it gets dark pretty fast. I gotta be honest with you. Not a lot of dudes here that I want to see Shakur Stevenson fight.
Isaac Cruz.
I think the one will probably be
Floyd Schofield.
Yeah, I think we'll just revisit that. Like maybe the WBC will just, like Turk will just pay them $1 bajillion to put Kid Austin back in the top 10 or something like that. And then
wait, hold up. But I think there's another fight that could possibly be made because we could get Floyd Schofield and Shakur Stevenson. Tank is set to fight next month, August 16th, against Lamont Roach.
We'll see.
If Tank, that's true. But I mean, he's been in this predicament before and still fought. So I'm just saying it could possibly happen. I'll say this though: if Tank beats Lamont in this rematch, then I think, there could possibly be some more talks about Shakur Stevenson and Gervonta Tank Davis because that's the fight to make. That is the fight to make in this division. Like, let's not look at these other names. I mean, we can because they're interesting. I want the Andy Cruz one, in my opinion.
And also because boxing is boxing. Like,
yeah, but that's the fight.
You're right. You're right. Ultimately, you're right.
Right. That's the fight that I think we all want to see. That's the one that's going to be the biggest moneymaker. And that's the one I think that would do crazy pay-per-view numbers. I think that one would do pay-per-view numbers. And I think you could do that fight either in New York. I think you could do it in Vegas. I think you can do it in DC. I think you could do it wherever. That's how good that fight is.
Not Saudi.
No. Tank wouldn't even allow that.
Yeah,
Tank wouldn't even allow that. Tank that
shouldn't because the people actually in this country want to see that fight. I think Shakur and Tank, at least in America, is the biggest fight in boxing that you could make.
Yeah.
Legitimately, I think it is. I'm not sure who else. Correct me if I'm wrong, chat. I'm not sure who else would crack that here specifically. Like, not like
Canelo and Benavidez. That's it.
I think,
but that's also international.
I think Shakur and Tank is bigger here.